The elevator stopped at the 14th floor with its usual mechanical ding, but when the doors slid open, I found myself staring into a corridor that shouldn't have existed according to the building directory and floor plans I had studied during my 3 years working as a night security guard in the downtown corporate complex. The hallway stretched into darkness beyond my flashlight's reach, lined with office doors that bore no company names or suite numbers, and filled with the kind of oppressive silence that made every sound of my breathing echo like thunder in the empty space. I had been making my routine security rounds through the 30-story building for over 1,000 nights, checking every floor, every office, and every storage area to ensure that the building was secure and that no unauthorized personnel were present during the overnight hours when most of the corporate tenants were safely at home. But tonight the elevator had taken me to a floor that didn't appear on any building schematic, a level that existed between the 13th and 15th floors and seemed to operate according to rules that had nothing to do with normal architecture or building codes. The air on the mysterious 14th floor was thick and stale, carrying scents of decay and abandonment that suggested the space had been sealed off for years. Yet the elevator had brought me here as if it were a normal destination on my security route. My name is Marcus, and that night taught me that office buildings aren't just monuments to corporate success. They are labyrinths where reality can bend, where floors that shouldn't exist can harbor secrets that challenge everything we think we know about the spaces where millions of people spend their working lives. Ever wondered why some office buildings have floors that don't add up? Ever questioned why certain elevators seem to stop at levels that aren't on the directory? Comment below if you've worked in an office building and discovered areas that seem to exist outside normal business operations, because tonight I'm sharing 5 true accounts that will make you question every corporate environment you've ever trusted. These aren't urban legends or exaggerated stories designed to make office workers paranoid about their workplace environments. These are real experiences from real people who learned that office buildings, with their maze-like layouts, hidden spaces, and after-hours emptiness, can become stages for encounters that defy rational explanation and expose the dark underbelly of corporate America. The Phantom Department. Sarah Chen was a 34-year-old financial analyst who worked for a major consulting firm on the 22nd floor of a prestigious downtown Seattle office tower, a modern 40-story building that housed dozens of companies and thousands of employees who commuted daily to their corporate jobs in the gleaming monument to Pacific Northwest business success. Sarah had been working for her consulting firm for over 4 years and was familiar with every aspect of the building's layout, from the ground floor retail spaces to the executive suites on the upper floors. Sarah's work often required her to stay late into the evening, analyzing financial data and preparing reports for clients who demanded the kind of detailed analysis that could only be completed during quiet hours when the normal business day distractions were minimized. Sarah was comfortable working alone in the building during evening hours, and she had developed efficient routines for completing her work while maintaining awareness of building security procedures. The consulting firm where Sarah worked occupied the entire 22nd floor of the building, with clearly defined office spaces, conference rooms, and common areas that were familiar to all employees and were regularly maintained by building management and cleaning services. Sarah knew every colleague, every office assignment, and every aspect of her floor's layout and operations. But during the second week of March 2021, Sarah began to notice activities on her floor that suggested the presence of people and operations that were not part of her consulting firm's normal business activities. Sarah would hear voices and sounds coming from areas of the floor that should have been empty during evening hours, and she would occasionally see lights and activity in offices that were supposed to be vacant or used only for storage. Sarah's investigation of the unusual activities revealed that a section of the 22nd floor that had been closed off for renovation was apparently being used by people who were conducting business operations that had nothing to do with her consulting firm or any other legitimate tenant of the building. The closed-off area contained offices and equipment that suggested a fully operational business department, complete with computers, filing systems, and work materials. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you've ever discovered that your office building contains departments that do not officially exist, because what Sarah learned about this phantom operation proved that some corporate espionage activities are conducted from within the very buildings they're targeting, using fake renovations as cover for illegal surveillance operations. The mysterious department appeared to be staffed by people who worked during evening and overnight hours, conducting business activities that required secrecy and isolation from the normal daytime operations of the building's legitimate tenants. Sarah could hear phone conversations, meetings, and other business activities coming from the closed-off area, but she was never able to identify the people involved or determine the nature of their work. Sarah's attempts to contact building management about the unauthorized use of the closed-off area were met with confusion and denial, with building officials insisting that no renovation work was being conducted on the 22nd floor, and that no additional tenants had been authorized to use space on Sarah's floor. The building's official records showed no evidence of the mysterious department. The situation became more disturbing when Sarah discovered that the mysterious department was conducting surveillance of her consulting firm's activities and was gathering information about the company's clients' projects and financial data that could be used for corporate espionage or other illegal purposes. Sarah found evidence that her computer had been accessed and that confidential files had been copied. Sarah realized that the mysterious department was using its hidden location within the building to conduct industrial espionage against her consulting firm and possibly other tenants, gathering valuable business intelligence that could be sold to competitors or used for other criminal purposes. The department's ability to operate within the building without detection by management or security suggested inside assistance. The situation escalated when Sarah was approached by people who claimed to represent the mysterious department and who warned her that her curiosity about their activities was unwelcome and potentially dangerous. The representatives made it clear that Sarah's continued investigation of their operations would not be tolerated, and that her safety and employment could be threatened. Sarah's attempts to document the mysterious department and report their activities to law enforcement were complicated by the fact that the evidence of their presence would disappear whenever building management or security personnel investigated her reports. The department seemed to have the ability to conceal their operations and equipment whenever official investigations were conducted. Sarah ultimately transferred to a different company in a different building to escape the surveillance and threats from the mysterious department. But her experience taught her that office buildings could harbor hidden operations that conducted illegal activities under the cover of legitimate business environments. The basement laboratory. David Rodriguez was a 29-year-old IT specialist who worked for a technology company on the 15th floor of a converted warehouse building in Chicago's Tech District, a renovated industrial structure that had been transformed into modern office space for startups and technology companies. David's job involved maintaining computer networks and systems for multiple companies that shared the building's technology infrastructure, which required him to have access to all floors and areas of the building, including basement levels and mechanical areas. David had been working in the converted warehouse building for over 2 years and was familiar with its unique layout and the challenges of maintaining modern technology systems in a structure that had been built for industrial purposes rather than office use. The building's basement levels contained mechanical systems, storage areas, and utility infrastructure that supported the office operations on the upper floors. The basement areas of the building were typically quiet and empty, except for the sounds of mechanical systems and the occasional presence of maintenance personnel who were responsible for building operations and utilities. David was comfortable working alone in the basement levels and had never encountered any unusual activities or security concerns during his routine maintenance visits. But during the first week of November 2020, David began to notice activities in the building as sub-basement level that suggested the presence of operations that had nothing to do with normal building maintenance or the technology companies that occupied the upper floors. David discovered that a section of the sub-basement that was supposed to be used only for storage and mechanical systems had been converted into what appeared to be a sophisticated laboratory facility. The laboratory facility appeared to be operational and actively used with evidence of ongoing experiments and research activities that involved chemicals, biological materials, and equipment that suggested scientific work that was being conducted in secret and without the knowledge or authorization of the building's management or legitimate tenants. Hit that like button if you've ever discovered that your office building's basement contains illegal operations that could endanger everyone in the building. Because what David found in this laboratory proved that some criminal organizations use legitimate business buildings as cover for dangerous manufacturing operations that put entire office complexes at risk. David's investigation of the unauthorized laboratory revealed that the facility was being used by people who had sophisticated knowledge of chemistry and biology, and who were conducting research that appeared to involve the development of drugs, chemicals, or other substances that could be used for illegal purposes. The laboratory contained equipment and materials that were typically found in pharmaceutical or chemical manufacturing facilities. The people operating the laboratory appeared to have detailed knowledge of the building's layout and security systems, and they had been able to establish their facility without detection by building management or other tenants. The laboratory's location in the sub-basement provided isolation and security that allowed the operators to conduct their work without interference. David's discovery of the laboratory put him in a dangerous position, as the people operating the facility became aware of his presence and began to view him as a threat to their illegal operations. David received warnings and threats that made it clear that his knowledge of the laboratory's existence was unwelcome and that his safety could be compromised. The situation became more threatening when David realized that the laboratory was producing substances that could be used for criminal purposes, including drugs, poisons, or other dangerous chemicals that could be used to harm people or facilitate other illegal activities. David's technical knowledge and access to building systems made him a valuable potential asset for the laboratory operators. David's attempts to document the laboratory and report its existence to law enforcement were complicated by the fact that the facility was well hidden and the operators had sophisticated methods for concealing their activities when they suspected official investigation. David was forced to gather evidence carefully and discreetly while avoiding detection. David ultimately worked with federal law enforcement agencies to document the illegal laboratory and provide evidence that led to a major investigation and prosecution of the criminal organization that was operating the facility. The investigation revealed that the laboratory was part of a larger criminal network that was producing illegal drugs and chemicals for distribution throughout the Midwest. The executive floor conspiracy, Jennifer Walsh, was a 31-year-old executive assistant who worked for a major investment firm on the 42nd floor of a prestigious Manhattan office tower, one of the city's most exclusive business addresses that housed some of the world's largest financial institutions and investment companies. Jennifer's position required her to have access to executive offices, confidential documents, and high-level business meetings that gave her detailed knowledge of her firm's operations. Jennifer had been working for the investment firm for over 3 years and had developed a reputation for discretion, reliability, and professional competence that made her a trusted member of the executive team's support staff. Jennifer's work often required her to stay late in the office to prepare materials for early morning meetings and to handle confidential communications. The investment firm where Jennifer worked occupied several floors of the office tower, with the executive offices and most sensitive operations located on the 42nd floor, where access was strictly controlled and limited to senior staff and authorized personnel. Jennifer was familiar with all aspects of the executive floor's operations and had never encountered any activities that seemed inappropriate. But during the third week of September 2019, Jennifer began to notice that certain senior executives were conducting meetings and activities that seemed to be separate from the firm as normal investment operations, and that involved people who were not part of the company's official staff or client base. These meetings would take place during evening hours in conference rooms that were normally used for legitimate business activities. Jennifer's access to executive calendars and meeting schedules allowed her to observe patterns of activity that suggested the senior executives were using the firm's offices and resources to conduct business that was separate from and possibly illegal compared to their authorized investment activities. The secret meetings involved people who appeared to be from government agencies, foreign organizations, and other entities. Ring that notification bell if you work in executive support and have ever realized that your company's leadership is using legitimate business operations as cover for illegal activities, because what Jennifer discovered about these secret meetings proved that some investment firms serve as fronts for international money laundering operations that put all employees at risk. The situation became more concerning when Jennifer discovered that the secret meetings were focused on activities that appeared to involve money laundering, tax evasion, and other financial crimes that use the investment firm's legitimate operations as a cover for illegal activities. Jennifer found evidence of financial transactions, document preparation, and communication activities that suggested the executives were facilitating criminal activities. Jennifer realized that she was working for an investment firm that was being used as a front for criminal activities by senior executives who were exploiting their positions, and the firm's reputation to conduct illegal business that could result in serious legal consequences for the company and its employees. Jennifer's knowledge of the criminal activities put her in a dangerous position. The situation escalated when Jennifer was approached by the executives involved in the criminal activities and was pressured to participate in their illegal operations by providing administrative support, document preparation, and other services that would make her complicit in their crimes. The executives made it clear that Jennifer's continued employment and safety depended on her cooperation. Jennifer's attempts to document the criminal activities and report them to law enforcement were complicated by the fact that the executives involved were powerful and well-connected individuals who had resources and influence that could be used to discredit or harm anyone who threatened their illegal operations. The situation became more dangerous when Jennifer discovered that the criminal activities involved foreign governments and international criminal organizations that were using the investment firm to move money and conduct financial transactions that supported terrorism, drug trafficking, and other serious crimes. Jennifer ultimately worked with federal law enforcement agencies and international investigators to document the criminal activities and provide evidence that led to a major investigation and prosecution of the executives and their criminal associates. The investigation revealed that the investment firm had been used as a front for a massive international money laundering operation. The maintenance tunnels. Robert Kim was a 27-year-old building engineer who worked for a property management company that maintained several large office complexes in downtown Los Angeles, including a connected series of buildings that were linked by underground tunnels and shared mechanical systems. Robert's job involved inspecting and maintaining the underground infrastructure that supported the office buildings, including electrical systems, plumbing, ventilation, and security equipment. Robert had been working in the underground maintenance systems for over 18 months and was familiar with the complex network of tunnels, utility corridors, and mechanical spaces that connected the office buildings and provided access to the infrastructure that kept the buildings operational. The tunnel systems were typically empty, except for maintenance personnel. The underground tunnel network was extensive and included areas that had been built decades earlier when the office complex was first constructed, as well as newer sections that had been added as the buildings were expanded and modernized. Robert was responsible for maintaining detailed maps and documentation of the tunnel systems. But during the second week of August 2022, Robert began to discover areas of the tunnel network that were being used for purposes that had nothing to do with building maintenance or legitimate business operations. Robert found evidence of living spaces, storage areas, and activity centers that suggested people were using the underground tunnels as a base for operations. The unauthorized use of the tunnel systems appeared to be extensive and well organized, with evidence of electrical modifications, ventilation improvements, and security measures that suggested the people using the tunnels had sophisticated knowledge of building systems and were planning to maintain their underground operations for extended periods. Share this video if you work in building maintenance and have ever discovered that your underground systems are being used by criminal organizations, because what Robert found in these tunnels proved that some office buildings sit on top of entire criminal enterprises that use maintenance access to conduct illegal operations throughout downtown areas. Robert's investigation of the unauthorized tunnel use revealed that the underground areas were being used by people who appeared to be conducting criminal activities that took advantage of the hidden location and the access to building systems that the tunnels provided. Robert found evidence of drug manufacturing, weapons storage, and other illegal activities. The people using the tunnels had apparently been operating their underground facilities for months or years without detection by building management or law enforcement, and they had developed sophisticated methods for accessing building utilities, security systems, and other resources that supported their illegal activities. Robert's discovery of the criminal operations put him in immediate danger, as the people operating the underground facilities became aware of his presence and began to view him as a threat to their illegal activities. Robert was confronted by armed individuals who made it clear that his knowledge of their operations was unwelcome. The situation became more threatening when Robert realized that the criminal operations in the tunnels were connected to larger criminal organizations that were using the underground facilities as a base for activities that extended throughout the downtown area. The tunnel operations provided the criminals with access to multiple buildings, utility systems, and transportation routes. Robert ultimately worked with law enforcement agencies and building security to document the criminal operations and provide evidence that led to a major investigation and raid of the underground facilities. The investigation revealed that the tunnel systems had been used as a base for a large criminal organization conducting drug manufacturing, weapons trafficking, and other illegal activities. The night shift, nightmare. Maria Santos was a 33-year-old cleaning supervisor who worked the overnight shift at a large corporate office complex in Phoenix, managing a team of custodial workers who were responsible for cleaning and maintaining the office spaces after business hours when the buildings were empty of their normal daytime occupants. Maria had been working overnight cleaning shifts for over 5 years and was experienced with the unique challenges of maintaining office buildings during quiet hours. Maria's work required her to have access to all areas of the office complex, including executive suites, conference rooms, storage areas, and mechanical spaces that needed regular cleaning and maintenance. Maria was familiar with the normal patterns of activity in empty office buildings and was comfortable working alone or with small teams during overnight hours. The office complex where Maria worked housed several major corporations and government agencies that required high levels of security and confidentiality for their business operations, and Maria's cleaning team was required to undergo background checks and security clearances that allowed them to work in sensitive areas. For over 5 years, Maria's overnight cleaning work had been routine and uneventful, with no security incidents or unusual activities that would suggest any problems with the office complex or the companies that occupied the buildings. Maria had developed efficient cleaning procedures and security protocols. But during the first week of October 2023, Maria began to encounter activities in the office complex that suggested the buildings were being used for purposes that had nothing to do with the legitimate business operations of the corporate tenants. Maria discovered that certain offices and conference rooms were being used during overnight hours by people who were conducting meetings and activities. The unauthorized nighttime activities appeared to involve people who had access to the buildings and were conducting business operations that required secrecy and isolation from the normal daytime operations of the legitimate tenants. Maria found evidence of meetings, document preparation, and communication activities that suggested unauthorized users were conducting business that needed to be hidden. Comment below if you work night shifts in office buildings and have ever been pressured to help with surveillance operations, because what Maria discovered about these nighttime activities proved that some cleaning crews are targeted by intelligence agencies that use their access to conduct illegal surveillance of the companies they're supposed to be serving. Maria's investigation of the unauthorized activities revealed that the nighttime operations involved people who appeared to be from government agencies and were conducting surveillance and intelligence gathering activities that targeted the legitimate businesses and their employees. Maria found evidence of surveillance equipment, document copying, and other activities. The situation became more disturbing when Maria realized that the surveillance activities were being conducted without the knowledge or consent of the companies being targeted, and that the unauthorized users were gathering confidential business information that could be used for corporate espionage or other illegal purposes. Maria's attempts to report the unauthorized activities to building management and the companies being targeted were met with denial and dismissal, with officials insisting that no unauthorized activities were taking place and that Maria's observations were mistaken. The response from management suggested that some officials were aware of the surveillance activities. The situation escalated when Maria was approached by the people conducting the surveillance activities and was pressured to provide assistance with their operations by giving them access to offices' documents and other resources that her cleaning team could access during overnight hours. Maria realized that she was being forced to choose between cooperating with illegal surveillance activities and risking her job and safety by refusing to participate in operations that violated the privacy and security of the companies she was supposed to be serving through her cleaning work. Maria ultimately worked with law enforcement agencies and corporate security to provide evidence of the illegal surveillance and to expose the unauthorized use of the office complex for intelligence gathering activities. The investigation revealed that the office complex had been infiltrated by a criminal organization conducting corporate espionage and surveillance activities. These 5 accounts from office building workers across America reveal a disturbing truth about the corporate environments where millions of people spend their working lives. The towering monuments to business success that dominate our city skylines can harbor secrets that challenge everything we think we know about workplace safety and the legitimate nature of corporate operations. Sarah's discovery of a phantom department conducting corporate espionage proved that some office buildings contain hidden operations that use fake renovations as cover for illegal surveillance activities targeting legitimate businesses. David's encounter with an illegal laboratory in a building basement demonstrated that some criminal organizations use office buildings as cover for dangerous manufacturing operations that put entire complexes at risk. Jennifer's exposure of executive-level criminal activities revealed that some prestigious investment firms serve as fronts for international money laundering operations that involve terrorism and drug trafficking. Robert's discovery of criminal operations in maintenance tunnels showed that some office buildings sit on top of entire criminal enterprises that use underground access to conduct illegal activities throughout downtown areas. Maria's forced participation in surveillance activities exposed how some intelligence agencies target cleaning crews to conduct illegal surveillance of the companies they are supposed to be serving, using overnight access to gather confidential business information. The most chilling aspect of these accounts isn't just the individual criminal activities themselves. It's the realization that these operations exploit the trust and access that legitimate business environments require, turning familiar corporate spaces into stages for criminal activities that can threaten anyone who discovers their existence. Sarah had no warning that her consulting firm was being targeted by a phantom department conducting industrial espionage from within the same building. David had no indication that his routine IT maintenance would expose him to a dangerous criminal laboratory producing illegal substances. Jennifer had no clue that her prestigious investment firm was serving as a front for international criminal organizations. Robert had no idea that his building maintenance work would uncover an entire criminal enterprise operating beneath the office buildings he was responsible for maintaining. Maria had no warning that her cleaning job would force her to choose between cooperating with illegal surveillance or risking her safety and employment. If you're currently working in an office building and have noticed unusual activities, unauthorized personnel, or areas that seem to operate according to different rules, trust your instincts and remember that legitimate business operations should be transparent and accountable to building management and regulatory authorities. The next time you're working late in your office building, remember these stories and pay attention to unusual activities, unauthorized personnel, and areas of your workplace that seem to exist outside normal business operations. Sometimes the most dangerous part of climbing the corporate ladder is not the competition or the stress. It's the discovery that your workplace harbors secrets that can turn your routine job into a nightmare. Before you go, check out the playlist in the description for more true office building horror stories that could save your career and your life. Because in the end, the most important thing you can protect at work is yourself. And no job is worth risking your safety in environments where legitimate business operations can be used as covers for criminal activities. Stay safe out there and remember that the best corporate environment is one where transparency and accountability ensure that everyone knows what's really happening in the building where they spend most of their waking hours, even if it means asking difficult questions about activities that don't seem to fit normal business operations.